Hi, so recently okay, no, I'm in the woods. I'm just trying to make sure no one's around. So recently I came back from a work trade on the Big Island in Hawaii, and I had quite a few people reach out to me and ask me for advice about like how to do a work trade or about a specific work trade in general. And I also had people ask me if I had any travel content, and I didn't. So I figured that I would make this video for fellow solo female travelers or anyone who wants to do a work trade on the Big Island of Hawaii. So I'm just going to basically go down a list of questions that I got the most through the World Packers app when people were asking for advice. So the first question was, why did I choose Hawaii to do a work trade? And simple answer was basically it was warm. It was a warm tropical place. I wanted to be gone for the winter. I live on the East Coast, and I wanted to be gone for the winter. And Hawaii was open during the pandemic. A lot of places weren't. You weren't allowed to travel to them. So I chose to go to Hawaii, and I was accepted, so I went. That was pretty like no-brainer. Like, it was warm and I wanted to be there. So yeah. So second question, what was my day-to-day routine like? So I spent about 3 months at one hostel in Hilo, and then I spent the last I think I spent like 4 months. Yeah, I spent like 4 months in Hilo, and then I spent the last month in Kona on the other side of the island. So the hostel in Hilo was like a hostel glamping experience. So you had people who were kind of outside, and then there was people who were in rooms. So you would get assigned a task every week or 2 weeks. You would have the same thing to do. So you either be on rooms, cabanas, laundry, maintenance, and something else. There's another task. I can't think of it right now. Oh, did I say laundry? I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah. So you would have your tasks for the 2 weeks, and then you would have, like, let's say if you were on rooms, you'd be responsible for making sure the kitchen upstairs was clean as well. If you had cabanas, you'd be responsible for making sure the downstairs common areas were clean too. So it was pretty simple, straightforward. You only had to work 2 hours a day, and most things you could needed to be completed before 2 or 3 p.m. For example, like the rooms and the cabanas. So you would do your work before 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and then you'd have the rest of the day to do whatever you wanted to do. So that was pretty dope. I actually really liked that setup. Most work trades that I was applying to were not like that. So that was pretty cool. My second experience in Kona was totally different. It was like straight up a hostel. You were working shifts. You were working a morning shift or an evening shift. You had, something I didn't clarify, the days off. So for Hilo, if you had a day off, it was basically like because there was no rooms to change or because no one left the cabana. So days off were dependent on if you had work to do, which wasn't a big deal because you only had 2 hours to work anyway. So even if you didn't get a day off, you still had like the whole day to do what you wanted to do. So I just want to clarify that. Now in Kona, that was not the case. So you would work either from 8 to 4, or you would work from 4 to 10 p.m. As the receptionist, you'd also have to make beds on the morning shift. You'd have to make sure the kitchen was clean, that the bathrooms were stocked. On the evening shift, you didn't have to make beds, but you had to do laundry, and it had to be done. Sometimes you would have to do guest laundry. You'd be responsible for checking people in for the most part, and just a bunch of other like really tedious stuff. So it was like a lot of stuff to do with that one. It really felt like a job. But you had 3 or 4 days off, so it was switched. So like you would have 3 days off, and then you would have 4 days off, depending on which week it was. So that was cool. and I was in Kona, and Kona's the more like touristy area of the Big Island, and it has it was closer to the beach, and it's sunny. Like Hilo, it was rainy all the time. I was there during rainy season, so yeah. So that was my day-to-day like activities. So next question, how was my experience? Okay, so I feel like this is going to be a little long-winded, or I'll try to make it short. So my experience was, it was a couple of things. Like my experience was, it was new. It was new. It was challenging for me, actually. I have a more introverted personality, and prior to me going on this trip, even before the pandemic happened, I was like a homebody. Like I was really in my house, just chilling, going on my nature walks, hanging out with my best friend. You know, I was kind of a homebody. So when I went into this experience, I knew that it was going to be maybe possibly a little bit challenging. So for me, in Hilo, the first 4 months of my trip, it was, I'm not gonna lie, it started off better than it ended. Mind you, I'm like the only Black woman there. Just had to put that out there because it did matter in certain situations. I could definitely feel like the cultural difference. Oh shit, what the fuck was that? Okay. I could feel the cultural difference in certain things, or maybe I would say in general, there was definitely just a lot of differences, not just because of me being Black, but I mean, I'm introverted, or I had those introverted qualities. I listened to different music, and it was just like, I felt like I didn't identify with who was there. When I first got there, so I felt really out of place. There were definitely moments where I did feel like I was a part of the group and included, but for the most part, I struggled with feeling like I was almost like an outcast a little bit. And people just wanted to do things I didn't want to do. Like people wanted to go to the beach all day, and it's like, the beach is cool, but I'm the type of person, I go to the beach, I'm good for like 2 hours, and I want to go do something else. And that was just my vibe. I wanted to go explore the city. I wanted to eat food. Like I don't know. I just didn't want to be at the beach all day. That just wasn't my vibe. So Hilo was interesting. I did leave with some friends, so it wasn't like a bad time, but I do remember feeling like challenged. I'm trying to say something more positive. There were really cool people there, but there was also people there that were not necessarily there for the same reasons as me. Like, I really wanted to grow as a person when I went to Hawaii. I feel like everyone says that, but that's the truth. I wanted to really work on myself, and I think I was able to accomplish that for sure, but not in the way that I thought. Like, it really just challenged me to like step out of my comfort zone, and also to recognize when I was holding myself back from opportunities. So Hilo was that situation in Hilo. Kona, totally different vibe. Like Kona was like the more touristy side, so Kona was kind of icy, like in terms of like the people that I would meet. It was very much like people were definitely there because they wanted to party, or because they wanted to meet people to party with. And the one thing I loved about Kona was the beach was right across the street. Literally right across the street. I could just walk and be at the ocean. I could be at the ocean at nighttime. It was just so, the ocean is my vibe. So being across the street from the ocean all the time was like heaven for me. But in terms of the experience there, I felt really overwhelmed as a receptionist there, because the receptionist didn't have an office. They were literally just in the kitchen. So when people check in, you're in the kitchen, people are cooking, you're just kind of there. And it was just like, For someone like me, I have to be able to get away from a crowd after a certain amount of time so I could recharge and get my thoughts together. For me, it was like sensory overload. Like, it was just too much. And there was like a time where I actually had I don't know, I had a night where I just felt really overwhelmed, and like I started crying, and it was like mad embarrassing, and then I felt like really shameful about it, and I don't know, it was just like, that was hard for me because I don't like being vulnerable in front of people and strangers. So yeah, Kona was a little bit more challenging, but I probably met the coolest people in Kona because of how hard it was to identify with what was happening around me. I think I was able to recognize more kindred spirits versus when I was in Hilo. I feel like in Hilo, I was more isolated, so it was like I just had to make do with who was around. And that's not a diss to anyone that I met, but it was just like, I feel like when I got to Kona, because there was way more people and things to do, I was able to just naturally align with people who were on the same thing that I was on. So Kona was like, it was more challenging, but in a really, really good way. So I left Kona feeling positive about my experiences there, more so than in Hilo. Just because of the fact that I felt like some of the people that I met there really resonated with like what I was trying to do and what I was feeling and all that. Did I enjoy my stay? A few people asked me this. I don't know if I already answered that on the last question, but I did enjoy my stay sometimes, and then other times I didn't really enjoy it. So it was a mixed bag. I would say for the most part I did enjoy it because I was in Hawaii and it was beautiful, and I got to be in beautiful surroundings and wake up and hear the koki frogs and see the sky and the sunset. I would say Kona has probably the best sunset I've ever seen anywhere. So yeah, it was 50-50. Like, I loved it, but sometimes I didn't really like it. So yeah, definitely half and half for me, but overall good. Definitely, I felt really blessed to even be there, to be experiencing the land and just the nature, because I know there's a lot of controversy about going to Hawaii, and there's a lot going on with that, but I just felt blessed to even be there. So yeah, a couple people asked me about safety. So was I safe? Yes, I was safe. In Hilo, we were really isolated, and we had lockers in our bedroom, but honestly, the door, we had like a sliding glass door that was always unlocked. The doors were rarely locked. Like, now that for me was kind of like, I didn't really like that, but we were so isolated. If someone really walked on this dirt road and found the house and was bold enough to go in the house, like, kudos to you, like, because it's dark as fuck in Hilo. Like, it's dark. There's no streetlights. Not on the road that I lived on. So it's like, if you're just wandering through the dark and you decide to go up this tall ass driveway in hopes that there's people there and something to steal, like, I mean, I think the odds of that were like slim. So Hilo, I felt really safe. Kona, I felt safe in Kona too. The only thing I would say about Kona was like, it was the same thing with the door policy. People just left doors unlocked, and it wasn't isolated. So I felt more weary about the door being unlocked, but you had a locker, so you could lock your shit up. So either way, it was whatever. I didn't feel threatened in any way. Yeah, not in terms of safety. No, I did feel safe like the whole time. That was never like an issue for me. So, did I make any extra side money? So, yes, I did. When I was in Hilo, I actually became the manager, and they were giving me money, like, I think it was weekly to be the manager, so that was cool. And in Kona, I ended up doing like a housekeeping position at some point, and they were paying me for that. But in Kona, there was a lot of jobs, and a lot of people had jobs. Like some people would just go bartend, or I don't even know, they would do like yard stuff for the hostel. So it was very easy to make money in Kona. In Hilo, not so much. You would need like a car more than likely if you were in Hilo, so you can go downtown and like do something. But I was lucky enough to be able to be manager, so I got paid where I was living. So that was really cool. But yeah, it wasn't hard to make money there. I had a couple people ask me specifically how was my experience as a Black female traveler. I think I answered this a little bit already in the other question, but I just wanted to touch on that. For me, I did feel like it was isolating at times because I mean, most of my friends in where I live are Black, so being in an environment where I was the only Black woman there, it was like, okay, it was different, you know, it was different. I don't think people like, you know, treated me bad or anything like that, but it was different, and it definitely took an adjustment. And also it made me more aware of, like, I don't know, it just made me more aware. Like, I think everyone should be in environments where they are not always surrounded by the people they're used to being surrounded by. I just think that it's important to be able to coexist with different people. Like, so it wasn't like bad, but I will say there was times where I was like, damn, I wish I could talk to someone about XYZ. Someone doesn't get this reference, or I wish I could, you know, play certain music with people, like stuff like that. Yeah, but I will say this, in Hilo, the Black people in Hilo showed like way more love than the Black people in Kona, which is really interesting. Like in Hilo, you'd see a Black person, they'd be like, yo, come here, come over here, come talk to me. And like Kona, they would just, you didn't even exist. Like literally you didn't even exist. So I just wanted to bring that up because I just thought that was interesting, the differences when you're like not on the touristy side versus in the more, I don't even know what you call that. I wouldn't even call it rural. I guess, yeah, I don't know. But yeah. So last question, what did I take away from this experience? I feel like, because for me, I was doing like a more spiritual, like self-growth type of journey. So for me, it really brought some things to light. For example, wanting to be accepted, it was like, that was like the common theme throughout that journey for me, was like me having to accept myself and not relying on like everyone else to make me feel like that I was worthy, you know. Like I feel like I put a lot of attention into the relationships that were around me because I was isolated, but it really just showed me a lot of the insecurities that I had and a lot of stuff that I wanted to work on. So for me, I took away that I don't need to put so much pressure on myself to make friends, because that energy needs to be given to like self-love. Like I really need to channel that into myself so that when I'm in situations where people don't necessarily understand me off the bat, I can feel secure with myself and not think that something's wrong with me. So I think that's what I got out of my experience, because it just kept popping up. Like it was just, I would make a friend and then they'd make other friends, and then I would feel a way about it, and like I would feel a way about it because like they would be more close to that other person, but like little trivial stuff like that. But it just let me know that I needed to work on some more self-love and stuff like that. So anyway, those were all the questions I could think of at the moment. I don't know if I'll make a part 2, but if anyone else hits me up, I might do that, because a lot of people actually hit me up to ask me about how it was. So hopefully this helped somebody, a solo female traveler, or anyone who's interested in being in Hilo or Kona, to do a work trade. It was really fun, and I would definitely recommend it. So yeah, just let me know if you guys want have something specific you want me to touch on, just put it in the comments and I'll make another video. All right.